Scoodly doodly doo, it's time for another Welch review. Scoodly doodly doo.
Hey guys, welcome back to another thrilling adventure in the Welch review.
Oh yeah.
Today we are talking about The King, which stars Sean Harris as William, Ben Mendelsohn as King Henry IV, Timothy Chalamet as Hal, aka Henry V, Joel Edgerton as Falstaff, Andrew Havel as the Archbishop, Dean Charles Chapman as Thomas. He was previously in Game of Thrones. He played Joffrey's younger brother. Robert Pattinson as the Dauphin, new Batman. Lily Rose Depp, Johnny Depp's daughter, as Catherine, right? And it was written by David Mitchell and Joel Edgerton, right, who also is Falstaff, and he's absolutely amazing. Joel Edgerton's a very underrated actor. And it's directed by David Mitchell, and the music is by Nicholas Brittle. And that is the key players of this cast. And it seems like this story, right, about Henry V, it's a different interpretation than the one of Shakespeare, but nonetheless a very, very good one.
Yeah, so the story starts off with with Hal, yeah, who is Henry V. He goes by Hal because he doesn't want to be called the same name as his father, who he hates, who again is the current king. And Hal is kind of just like a drunkard. He goes, he parties all day and night, hangs out with his homie Falstaff, who's like his bodyguard. But meanwhile, the empire that his dad's ruling is like falling apart around him. His dad's dying of an undisclosed illness, but he has pox on his bodies that we see later on, so maybe somebody out there can speculate for us.
All is not well in the Kingdom of England at this time.
Yeah, there's rebellions in both Wales and Scotland, and very quickly the story has another rebellion spring up around a vassal of the king, an up-and-coming vassal of the king, because the king refuses to pay the ransom for his cousin.
Yep.
So anyways, king's dying. He's like, Hal, my first son, guess what? Your little brother's going to be king because you suck and I hate you.
And Hal only showed up because he was dying. He had no pretense about being king.
Yeah.
So as that's happening, right, you have this uprising, this challenger, who is the king's own vassal, and to lead the king's army is Hal's younger brother and the king's youngest son, Thomas.
Yeah, who's a pansy.
He is the ultimate pansy, and now while Thomas is eager to prove himself, Hal is very much, what would you say he was when we were talking?
He's very like anti-war, and he doesn't really believe in all of the civil wars and conflicts that are happening in England. He doesn't think that the king should be, fighting against his own nobles. He should unify his nation rather than, defeat and murder his own people.
Yeah. So Hal then decides to stick around to try and sway his brother, like ultimately to protect his brother and the people in the army. Like, he's like, this doesn't need to be the way it happens. This battle doesn't need to happen. This is our father's fight, not ours. No one needs to die. His brother, of course, is all like, like trying to...
That's exactly what he sounds like the entire film. We really don't know what he's saying.
And he's like, no! You're like, oh, okay, man.
Yeah,
he's trying to assert himself.
Yeah, he wants to, win honor for himself. And Hal's just like, man, I just want, as few people to die as possible.
Right, but the scene also showcases the fact, Hal knows how to fight. He knows combat.
Well, wait. We have to... If we're talking about how he knows combat, we gotta say how he got into combat, man.
Well, we're getting there.
Alright.
So, Hal shows up to where this fight's about to happen, tries to persuade his brother, like I was saying. That doesn't go well. Right, his brother really much wants to fight. Hal then, how he knows combat. Well, it doesn't explain how he knows combat, but it showed that he can.
How does it show it? Get to the point.
Because instead of having the armies fight, he goes to the guy and was like, "Hey, you and I fight in our army's stead." The guy ultimately accepts the challenge, and then Hal kills him.
Yeah.
And then his brother's all like panties are in a bunch and is pissed off.
He's real butthurt.
So then Hal, of course, returns back to Eastcheap, right? Does about his thing, and figures he'll never see, his brother or the crown again.
Yep, and then finds out his brother and father are both dead. Or all his dad's dying.
Right.
So ultimately Hal becomes king, and he immediately goes about trying to patch up the gaps in his country, right? He doesn't go to war with the rebelling lords. He welcomes them back into the fold and says, "Hey, listen, I'll just do the things that you wanted. That way we can stop killing each other."
Yeah.
Which is when our next protagonist comes into play.
So then, as he's like
antagonist,
crowned king, right? Now mind you, he's a young guy, maybe 18, 19 max.
Yeah.
Right? So everyone's showering him with gifts, which is common. Is that common?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was his coronation, so he had just become king. Other lords and people come to give him gifts to try to win his favor. That way there can be good relationship in between empires.
In which he kind of gives the gifts to people like his sister, his cousin, right? He gives this stuff away. And then one gift, right, is just a ball. It's from France, from the Dauphin, which is just like the Prince of France. And he gives him a ball. And at first Hal, he doesn't really think much of it. It's like, oh, okay, I was young and stupid. I get it, right? I gotta earn it.
It's a joke.
Right, and then he shrugs it off, no big deal. Which I thought was the right way to go about it. It's a ball. It's not like, oh, it's someone's head, someone you love in the box. It's not like a Brad Pitt in Seven thing.
Yeah.
So whatever, that's okay. Well, then his advisors are all like, this is an insult. You must go to war with France.
Why is his
I don't know.
advisors
It just seemed right in the moment. So anyway, so they basically sucker him into going to war.
Well, there's a few more things that happen. Supposedly the French send an assassin. There's a third thing. I can't remember what the third thing was. Was there a third thing?
No.
No,
just
okay.
that, and then the assassin.
And
then they question him about, they keep questioning him, what will you do?
Yeah.
Right? What are you showing your people? So, as Hal's trying to keep, the strife levels down among his own people and abroad, he's also trying to figure himself out.
Yeah.
And figure out who he can trust.
Yeah, which is nobody.
Well, exactly. And his sister, right, after his coronation has this line, right? It's watch, basically, watch out for people, because they have kingdoms behind their own eyes, right? Even though you're king, they still got plans for, how they're going to capitalize off of you.
Yep.
No one's trustworthy. So then ultimately, Hal, upon making this decision to go to war, goes to the one person he can trust, which is Falstaff.
Yeah.
And gets him to come on this new campaign.
Yeah. So, anyways, ultimately he goes to France, he goes to war, and the Dauphin comes and taunts him a couple of times, and that winds up being his big bad for most of the film. Yeah. But I don't think that we should tell you much more than that, because this is where the story starts to get kind of more juicy.
So we'll leave you hanging wanting more.
Yeah.
Definitely check The King out. It's really, really good. But talking about the Dauphin, Robert Pattinson, his role, right? When he's on screen, he's on screen. He's really hamming it up as this French villain, and I think he's really enjoying his own accent when he talks.
Yeah. And whenever he's on screen, he's the main focus, right? Because while our main character who plays Hal does a good job, he's a very understated character. He doesn't try to make himself the center of attention every 12 seconds, even though he is the center of attention. He's pretty humble for a king. But when he does make a decision, it's straight and to the point. This is what's happening. Oh, my cousin was thinking about betraying me. No more head.
Nope.
So he's a very calm and understated character, while the Dauphin is the exact opposite. The Dauphin has extravagant black armor, and he's throwing insults every 12 seconds. He brings his own throne to
the battle.
to the battlefield like twice. Well, one wasn't a battlefield.
When he wanted just to talk.
Yeah, they have like
Parlay.
Yeah, parlay. Parlay français. So they parlay, and he brings his own throne and his own posse, and he's talking like crazy shit. Like every second he's on the screen.
And you can tell Pattinson's enjoying it. Like, I think he's actually laughing like, yo, they're paying me just to shit on you.
With a French accent.
With a French accent. That's my job.
Yeah.
Another really good character is Falstaff. Yep. Joel Edgerton plays Falstaff very well, right? Definitely like that mythic hero. He's seen some stuff. He has some really good lines, where like Hal's like, you're my friend. And he's like, kings don't have friends. They have followers
and enemies
and foe.
Oh, followers and foe.
And it's like that's and then when Hal is lashing out, right, because he's angry, talking about what he will do to prisoners and that kind of thing, and Falstaff's like, no, you won't. You're not that man.
Yeah.
And like reminds him like he is a kind of like Hal's conscience, right, reminding him how he is what to be.
Yeah.
Because he's seen war, he's seen people die senselessly. So Falstaff's passing that on to him.
Yeah, not only that, but Falstaff's kind of like a people's champion.
Yeah.
Throughout like the entire show, like he's like a Shakespearean everyman in a lot of ways, because his problems throughout the film, like the one thing he asks his newly appointed king best friend to do is like, hey man, I owe this bar lady like a lot of money. Could you pay my tab for me? Like, could you pitch me a 20 so that I could pay this tab? Like, he has very, like, down-to-earth human problems. Like you were saying, he's been to war and he's felt the weight of war and he doesn't like it. So he very much is, like, a human character. Meanwhile, everybody else is, like, this noble lord with their own interests. So what Falstaff kind of does is, like, he embodies that common man, those common man traits, and he gives them to the main character. Like, I have no doubt, because of Falstaff, that we get a main character who puts his people first. The reason why our main character refuses to go to battle, it isn't just because he doesn't like to fight his own people during the rebellion, but it's also because he doesn't want his soldiers to die. Later on, when he is fighting the French, he begs. He doesn't beg, but he asks. He begs. He begs the person who he's going to be fighting against to have it be one-on-one. That way, his men don't die. And part of that was probably a plan to goad them into combat, but also,
it seems sincere.
Yeah, he doesn't want his people to die, because if the Dauphin did take the bait, or his opponent did take the bait, then he would also have to wind up fighting a one-on-one match that could result in him dying.
Right.
So he will go to great lengths to save the people who he cares about, and the people he cares about are the common man, thanks to the efforts of Falstaff. So that was real roundabout and long.
He Miyagi'd him.
Yeah, that is Miyagi for this film.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like really a quality film, and like not just like historically, like it's a very good historic piece. You're a history major. Did you find like that it was really unique? Not unique, but in line with how things would have been.
So my knowledge of English history is not the best. I study mostly like Italian history.
But like their armor, I guess. Let me be more generic.
Yeah, so their armor is pretty good. I think that the one thing that they don't do well is they have like everybody in plate armor, and that's not how it would have been. They do pikes well. They have some very good points that they bring up, like our longbowmen will defeat their horsemen, which was true. The English longbows were one of the big reasons why plate armor became like less feasible. It's why people started to wear less and less armor, and why weapons like rapiers became more popular. Because you didn't need to like bust through armor. It was just about stabbing the other dude as quickly as you could. So the English longbow, that's true. There's another line where they're talking about how they can't stay in the siege for too long, because if they do stay in the siege for too long, they'll run out of food and their people will get diseases. And that is also true with an inadequate setup for your for your soldiers, or just having people in unsanitary conditions for prolonged periods of time. They're gonna get sick, and that is something that very commonly happened during sieges. Both sides would wind up getting like horrendously sick because 5,000 dudes shitting in the same spot for 20 months doesn't go well.
That was just a good scene altogether when the Archbishop is questioning, and he's like, typically that's associated with a siege. Like,
yeah.
that was just really good. So, The King, excellent movie. Timothy Chalamet does a really great job as Hal. I really think Joel Edgerton should have been nominated for something for this role.
Yeah, it also has some pretty good twists. We're not going to talk about those, but you'll like it.
I mean, the music is really well done. Like, Nicholas Brittle did an awesome job scoring this.
Yeah.
So check out The King. This has been the Welch Review.
Oh, it's also a Netflix original, so watch it there.
We'll see you next time.
Hello?